You know, you suggested in your interview with Tucker Carlson that Gap, for example, the clothing wear company, had prior knowledge of the Uvalde shooting, which is obviously completely insane. Why would you say that? And then why would you be surprised if the media then react to it? They're bound to.
What I'm saying is that was worded. That might have been worded in a way that the media could take in the wrong way. But I thought it was really interesting, the amount of people at Gap. We had a release that was happening, and the amount of people at Gap that were rallying around this as a media moment. If they didn't know about that, where there's theories, you can't say that the theories about 9/11 are completely insane.
Actually,
that's just the person I am. I'm that kind of person.
Well, look, you're perfectly entitled to have theories. I think most of them are completely insane. But on this specific one, on Uvalde, you even suggested that Matthew McConaughey. You even suggested that Matthew McConaughey may have. It was all a bit weird that he was speaking so early about it, when in fact he came from Uvalde and spoke very passionately after this atrocity. So I think people read these comments and like, what are you talking about?
No, okay, so I'm not, what I'm saying is I definitely feel there was a major media push around that to create trauma and fear culture, because the amount of people, and this is not to be in any way, I care about people who have passed away and have lost loved ones.
20 kids were shot dead in a classroom. Okay. 20 children were shot dead at school.
So let me explain.
No one in the media is putting
any
sort of trauma into that. That is the trauma.
Okay, Pierce, how often does that happen in my hometown?
Well, the 20 kids are killed in school in one mass shooting. As far as I'm aware, it's never happened in your hometown, has it?
Yeah, it does.
Not in one mass shooting.
Are killed in Chicago. I didn't finish.
Okay.
Let's not do this again.
Okay.
We reviewed how that goes.
You could talk.
At least 14 kids are killed in Chicago every week, and there's no media push around it, and that's my issue. When I was at Gap, there was no media push around the killings in Chicago.
But I would agree. I agree with you. I completely agree. My youngest son has recently been at the University of Chicago for a year, and there were 2 students shot in that time. I completely agree that there is never enough attention given to all the slaughter from gun violence in Chicago. Completely agree with you. What I can't agree with is any suggestion by you that anyone at Gap or Matthew McConaughey or anybody else had any prior knowledge of what happened at Uvalde. Of course they didn't.
What I'm saying is, I'm not saying they did, but with the amount of attention that went, understand, I was jealous, once again. You feel me? I'm jealous that so much attention went in this direction, but doesn't go into the direction of Chicago when the same amount of people.
That's what you should say.
I'm not finished.
Yeah, but it comes down to the way you phrase these things.
Bro, hey, I just said it.
Yes.
Like I just said, you're not always going to say the things the right way, but at least I have the bravery to open the conversation. Your first sentence isn't your last sentence. My first rap that I told wasn't my last rap that I told. And now that's the whole point. It's said. Once it's said, accept that it was said. I am the iPhone 20, right? I'm growing. I'm a hybrid. I'm updating. Okay. I'm constantly updating, and that's what we're supposed to do. You can't drag me back, because you enjoy that, right? When you bring it up, I'm saying, hey, this is what I'm saying. I felt, this. Think about this. Have you ever heard the term premeditated murder?
Yes.
I feel like the George Floyd was a premeditated murder. That's my feeling, based off of, and we never got to that in the beginning, but that's my feeling based off of the information I saw in the documentary.
I think it was a premeditated murder in the sense that I agree, but not for the reason you think. I think it was premeditated in the sense that policeman didn't give a damn about George Floyd's life, stuck his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and killed him. So I know we don't agree about that. I don't want to go back over that. I want to ask you, about something different.
I think the policeman was involved with it too, but not in the way that you think about it.
Right.
I think he was involved in a different way.
I think we'll have to.
I think he was also part. I think he was also part of the setup.
Okay. Look, we're not going to agree about that. But
he's been moved. He's been moved. He's been moved. And I need you to watch the documentary, and we could talk offline and then talk online again.
Okay.
Because what's not fair is for a white martyr like JFK to be analyzed 100 different ways, but then for a black martyr like George Floyd, for us to only accept the one way. That's like us only accepting the one way for the black vote.
Like I said to you,
we have the opportunity to look at it different ways.
Like I said to you, you are completely entitled to challenge anything, frankly, and I'm equally entitled to come back at you and say what I think. That's what a democracy is about. Let me ask you before it's I want to ask you one thing about your.
But look, no, I got.
Okay. I don't want to keep going back to that same issue.
The disparagement right there.
Yeah.
But look at the disparagement, because I still had an idea. I don't like the word point. I had an idea that you didn't embrace right there. The martyr JFK, we analyzed his death 100 different ways, right? But with George Floyd, he died that way, and then it's white people telling super brilliant, successful black people, you have the right. It's literally like on some Black Lives Matter, like your life matters, like, oh, your idea matters, but then shut up and we're not going to go back to it. No, we're going to unfold it. I need you to watch that documentary, and I want us to talk line by line. I want to because look, I think that we're a good conversation, and now within the next 2 years, we need to talk a lot of times. Right?
I would love to do that.
This kind of thing.
Honestly, I honestly,
we should unpack.
Listen.
Yeah.
Let me say to you, I've wanted to interview you for years.
Yeah.
I genuinely mean it when I say I think you're one of the most brilliant, talented people that I've seen in the public sphere. And you have a lot of fascinating ideas.
I got to educate about this. We're going to bring it all together. Remember, George Floyd killed in a very similar race ritual. And notice George Floyd's name. It's got that 43-119 in it, just like Civil War, right? 43-119. It's also got, there's so much to say about George Floyd's death, but his full name is where I want to go to. His full name is George Perry Floyd. And you might recall his baby mama was Roxy Washington, whose name is 201, just like George Perry Floyd. And you might recall right after he died, we got an interview in Minneapolis of a man named Lamar Ferguson, who supposedly was beat up by the same police, had his teeth knocked out. That was a story right after George Floyd, also from Minneapolis. He had Ferguson in the name, which reminds us of Michael Brown, which is another 201. So if you write out the Jesuit Order, it equals 201. If you write out Order of Illuminati, it equals 201. The Order of Illuminati, its official title, was established by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt May 1st, 1776, just before this nation was established, July 4th, 1776. And the founder of the Jesuits is Ignatius of Loyola, whose name is 201. And by the way, his birth name, which I forget right now, is also 201, if you want to look that up. And we're in the time of the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, whose birth name is Jorge Mario Bergoglio, which is 201. And he's the first Jesuit Pope and the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, which has a name. It's called the Domus Sanctae Martyr. Let's see. I spelled it wrong. Domus Sanctae Martyr. There it is. Domus Sanctae Martyr. 201. And remember, he's Pope Francis. The Jesuits were originally created in Paris, France. The last French pope was the 201st pope. Okay? So coming back to George Perry Floyd. His killing was compared to the killing of Adama Traore, who was killed July 19th, 2016, the 201st day of the leap year in Paris, France, where the Jesuits are from. And from Adama Traore's killing to George Floyd's killing is exactly 201 weeks later. Now, after the George Floyd killing, from Adama Traore's killing to George Floyd's killing is exactly 201 weeks later. Now, after the 201st day of the leap year in Paris, France, where the Jesuits are from. And from Adama Traore's killing to George Floyd's killing is exactly 201 weeks later. Now, after the George Floyd killing, the only Confederate statue in D.C. was torn down on June 19th, 2020, a year to the day of them making it an official national holiday. And notice how the word Confederate is 201. Now, from the day, June 19th, to the Capitol insurrection, January 6th, where the flag flew, and that day can be written 6-1 like the American Civil War began in 1861, it was 201 days later, okay? Now, here's the other part of this. Timothy McVeigh, who was inspired by the Turner Diaries, which is about an insurrection in the Capitol where white supremacists take over the Capitol and blow up a federal building. He's who's blamed for blowing up the Oklahoma City building on April 19th, 95. And he's from the Buffalo area. And 2 days before, look how weird this is. 2 days before the Buffalo shooting, a play debuted in Buffalo about Timothy McVeigh blowing up the Oklahoma City building bombing. And look at what Benjamin Crump said when he came to town after the Buffalo shooting. He compared it to the April 19th, 95 Oklahoma City attack, okay? He compared the two events because these guys are on script. Just like Black Lives Matter's part of the script, Benjamin Crump's part of the script, they're all talking the same subliminals that all fit in with the Civil War history, the history of this nation, of racism and slavery, Jefferson a slave owner, from William and Mary from Williamsburg, Virginia. And see how these people, they don't even realize how they're getting used and abused. They just go along with it because they're getting paid. If you saw the Black Lives Matter protester, he had a really nice car, you know. He's getting money from that Black Lives Matter, being the agent that he is, out there instigating, leaving the sign. Did you guys see his sign that he left? By the way, my sign got torn down that I left the day after I left. People in the community let me know they took it down, just about sharing knowledge and information. But they've left up Black Lives Matter sign, which says hate, hate. Hate, hate, really? Somebody says, what's wrong with that sign? Do you think that's going to solve the problem to bring more hate to the hate?